I'm sorry, what did you
Yeah,
say?
we can start. I think that's what he means.
Oh, yeah, we're live.
Okay, good afternoon. Today our lessons is going to be based on the employment and how we can be able to overcome a few challenges, that is exceptions that we may. Now, can anyone explain to us the employment at
Is he? John, can you hear us?
He's
You're
frozen
cutting
on
out.
my end.
Mine too.
Hi, Shelley.
Hello, how are you?
Well,
yeah.
John, you were frozen for a minute. We couldn't hear you.
Yes. Same. Any one of you can explain the employment at will and the exceptions that we may actually experience. Angela.
You want somebody to explain employment at will?
And the exceptions that we can actually
Well, the definition of the paperwork says that an employee can quit at any time and the employer can discharge the employee at any time for any or no reason with or without notice. That's just the basic definition of the employment at will.
Yes.
And then we're given
exceptions would be if they have like a contract, then it's, you know, that would be an exception to the rule.
And then there's some kind
other
of
laws. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ben.
There's all kinds of details in the employment termination in the United States and about how businesses can kind of have a little bit of control how they set things up.
Right, and one of the other exceptions is if it violates some sort of state or federal statute or law. So, you know, you can't just do anything under at will.
Okay.
But so I don't have any personal experience with it. So, sorry.
The camera is not working well over here. I don't know. I think I've been getting you right now. So going into it. Go ahead, Angela.
Say that again.
I said, go ahead. You were trying to speak.
Oh, I was just gonna say I can hear you. I don't know if your thing was having problems, but I can hear you right now.
Oh, okay. So what does all these things for? As we read from the from employment at the will and at the legal perspective, like taking the exceptions one by one into consideration. What are some of the things that we, from the legal perspective, if we are to go into it detail, well, we have discussed these exceptions.
Exceptions?
The exceptions, we need to discuss the exceptions, is that what you said?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, it kind of cuts out just a little bit for me. I don't know about everybody else, but I get the gist of what you're saying. It just takes me a second, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah, same here.
is doing the same to me also.
So you want to talk more about the exceptions? Is that what you wanted to do?
We want to talk more about the exception in a legal perspective.
A leg up?
I think you're saying legal.
Legal.
Oh,
Sorry.
legal aspect. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sorry, John. Well, in a legal perspective, you have to be very careful when you're hiring and firing people for this very reason, because especially small companies don't really have much, they don't have the kind of resources or the employees generally that are super informed about all these issues. So I think it's really, when we were reading the article about Terry and Phil, I thought, the whole idea of building the case, I think that happens in a lot of places because you're trying to protect yourselves from some sort of legal and problems in the future. So you want to be careful that they can't come back and say, oh, they only fired me because I am, a woman or because I'm a minority, or you really have to kind of put up sometimes with some bad employees, just to build that case for legal reasons. But I don't think that's the best idea. I mean, it would be nice if these systems were designed more around helping employees improve and less around, trying to get rid of them. But I think too often they're just about getting rid of people.
Great. All right, Angela, do you have anything to add?
I was just gonna, based on what she was saying, most of the time when people are trying to build a case, it's usually because things have gotten so far. You know what I mean? I think it's they haven't been able to work with them anymore. As far as the legalities of it, each state has its own way that they do it. I know Utah is an at-will state, but not everybody is. So these policies aren't even the same from state to state.
Great. What of Tammy?
I think there were 4 exceptions to employment at will: breach of contract, breach of covenant of good faith, violation of public policy, and discrimination statutes. And we could talk about all of those a lot more in depth, but as far as they apply to the case study, I'm not sure. I was a little, there's some stuff that came up in the case study that kind of threw me, so I wasn't sure. And I also didn't notice where the case study took place. So I don't know if employment at will is something that applies.
Great.
Well, it's Microsoft, so I'm betting it's probably either Silicon Valley or Seattle. But that could be wrong.
Yeah.
Or a Microsoft spinoff.
Yeah, it's a spinoff. Yeah.
Anything to add?
I don't see anything about where it happened.
I'm not sure if you asked me, John, but if I had anything to add, I just think this class is good and interesting because we've kind of gone through legal action. We have laws that provide for that, for protecting people.
Yeah.
And last time we talked about unions and the organization of that, and now we're talking about how maybe that can be, better applied, or even provide the businesses with a little bit of safety. At least that's what I saw. So so the right things are done, and things aren't taken too far either way.
Sorry.
Great. So, what should you do as managers, like as a team members to respond? Let's talk about the two brothers who were Terry and Phil. Let's first of all talk about Terry before Phil, and see how best we can be able to, evaluate whatever they were doing. Now, first of all, let's look at the financial obligations as they were in the company.
Okay.
We'll end up the article talking about the Terry and the Phil.
Mm-hmm.
So what impact does these two have on the company's bottom line? What
Bottom line?
impact?
The impact Terry and Phil have on company's bottom line.
Yes.
Well, they're dead weight. You know, they're paying somebody who's not pulling their share. So, you know.
Which was much more true of, I think, of Terry than of Phil. I think
I agree.
Phil at least was doing something, but Terry seemed to be doing nothing.
Right.
Yeah, Phil's been on a long period of sick leave, and then his performance wasn't good when he came back. So.
Yeah, I mean, she does say that if she had her will, she would give him a 2.5, which is basically putting him on the track to be fired.
Great. So does the manager have any obligations on that information?
Well,
that he has any obligations?
Yeah, because when you have an employee that's not pulling their weight, it's really hard to justify to the other team members why they should work hard. When somebody else gets everything, you know, all the same benefits, all the same, and they don't work hard and they're not contributing. And so it's clearly a situation that has to be handled. It's just, how does it get handled?
Yeah, it's really interesting because he was sick and you can't fire him for that. I mean, to a degree. But then it says that he expected a promotion, even though he clearly wasn't performing well because he'd been there for a while. And I know the company culture, and I don't know if he was promised something. I hope not. But I don't know. That just seems interesting to me.
Seems like the expectation is within the company that, you know, it's growing and everybody's gonna, you know, everybody's gonna move up the ladder. If I was their man, well, I have two things. I'm not sure that this, I can't think of her name. She, I think, is a little arrogant. She's a little like, I'm the manager of these people and I know what it is. And, you know, and I don't get along with, you know, and I'm like, she needs to address her own issues with management as well, because this is her career on the line as well. And if she's going to continue to butt heads with the CEO, she's going to be the next one that they're going to say, oh, she's continually attacking me. And, you know, I want a work environment where my point of view is respected, you know? So I think she's got her own problems.
I agree with you. I felt like she was a little arrogant too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think she's self-aware about it though.
Yeah.
She even mentioned
kind of like a ringleader.
Yeah, she knows that she's a little arrogant.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So you see that the story was so, I think I felt it. It was so touching how the both of them, even though they were not pulling themselves, but looking at the situation for both of them, it was not easy at all. It can also happen to any other person. But hey, that is the teamwork, and we all have to pull our weight to support the team. That is it. So legally, based on what we have learned, have we learned, or have you be aware of certain legal terms, as in employment at will exceptions? Have we been aware of certain situations now?
Within the case study?
Yeah, have we been aware of a few things with regards to,
I think we need to know what was promised to Terry. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the boss's buddy, and we don't know what was promised. So, you know, perhaps there's things there we're not aware of. But then clearly, I think Benjamin already mentioned with Phil, you know, we can't just let him go because he's been sick a lot. You know, either that's.
Yeah, that's where the legal situation could pop up with Phil, is because if he you know, sues the company and said that's why they're letting him go, it's because of his sickness.
Right. So I don't know. Can we think of any other legal?
So let's then jump to the manager. What legal obligations could a manager, Terry and Phil, what obligations could a manager actually have to these two members of the team?
I think that the manager has a greater obligation to the welfare of the company. So in the case of Terry, that is not qualified to do any of the jobs that he's been assigned, I don't really feel like that they have a great obligation to him specifically. I think they have a greater obligation to the company and to make sure that the people that they have in place are fulfilling the job that's required.
Great. Any other?
If I were Terry's manager, I would try to get him off on another team. You know, I
agree.
let somebody else see the issues, because she's the only one reporting it, and right now she's kind of out on a limb. And so I would try to get him shuffled to another team, and maybe one that reports closer to the CEO, where he's going to see what the work is.
And even maybe something that he's better at, because he's not good at what this team does.
Right.
So maybe finding a team where he's better fit would be a good idea for her.
Yeah, I see if there was some kind of way to have more of a personal evaluation. In the case, it talks about little ways to, you know, give them performance, like you showed up 1 minute late.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I'm like, I don't think that's gonna work.
Great. So let's now come to the ethical obligation. Now, what ethical obligation does the manager have to these two brothers?
I think they have a little bit of a bigger ethical obligation to Phil because of his sickness and because he does contribute somewhat. He was part of a merger, you know, a buyout, and they didn't lay anybody off. So his skills don't fit, but at least he has skills. Yeah. And so I think they have a little bit of an obligation to Phil than to Terry, who isn't doing anything that contributes.
Yeah,
all
but
right.
Phil has got to know that his attitude and his complaining is not going to fly. That has to stop. You know, I mean, he has got to stop assuming that he knows everything and it should be all his way. And maybe that comes from, if she could establish that PIP in a better way, in a real, these are the real goals that I'd like to see you set. You know, you guys have seen SMART goals, right? Where they're like, you know, if she could lay it out like that in something that he could achieve and demonstrate progress in, then maybe she could start to change some of that attitude that he's only dead weight and he's only difficult.
Anyone else? So what about to the company? The ethical obligation to the company as a manager.
I think it's important that somebody tell Terry to be neutral with his political and religious beliefs, or just how he presents things. Because it talks about how he would post, you know, really, it could be polarizing messages, even on their company like bulletin or something like that. I think maybe he would feel more connected or involved, or maybe there's a chance for him to perform even better, to do a little bit.
So that does it mean that even though he was then trying to help, because we come to understand that even the manager's boss was not in good terms with Telly, but he was also trying to, she was also trying to help Telly to overcome, maybe to pull his weight. So does that mean that it was then wasting my time on Telly, maybe to prepare him to come back or to pull his weight? Is that what he was trying to do, the manager?
I think she did try to work with him, but she doesn't really seem to respect anybody that's not a technical genius. You know, so it seems like that's where she definitely prioritizes in her hires and her, and you know, I mean, they've been very productive, so maybe there's a good reason for that. But yeah, I just think he's not a good fit for her team. And I think if she fires him or sets him up that way, she's going to be one of the next ones out the door. I mean, I think she has to really look to herself, because, you know, as much as we'd all like to believe that everything happens right, sometimes whoever is the boss, and it's your job to take directions at some point, you know, and you don't get your way all the time.
Great. So Tama, to the other employees, the ethical obligation. Does the manager have an ethical obligation to other employees?
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying before about how when you have teammates that aren't participating, at least that's what I meant, then it does destroy the unity of your team, you know, and so it's hard to maintain good working relationships, and when you know you're letting somebody get away with something. So everybody else then starts to take 10 minutes longer at lunch, or, you know, or start making their phone calls. You know, I mean, it just happens that way. So yeah, we have an ethical responsibility to the other employees too, that their work is not going to be undervalued because we're trying to make up the slack for other people.
I think not only that, which I agree with, but also, who was the one that had a gun in his car? Wasn't that
Terry?
Yeah. So I feel like there's also an ethical obligation there to make sure that people are safe. You know, I don't mind that he has a gun in his car, but it is something that she should think about. If she knows, I think she knew about it. That was her saying it.
Or company policy, yeah.
Yeah. So there's an ethical obligation to the other employees there that you make sure that they're safe. I don't know what that looks like as far as he's concerned. As far as Terry's concerned, I don't know what that looks like for her to be able to take care of him, but she knows that he carries a gun, or at least has one in his car.
That's scary.
I think another obligation is that Rachel communicates. Hasn't, you know, told anybody really about how poorly Terry is doing. I don't know if I don't think it's a cover up or anything, but and I don't know why she's doing it really, but it talks about that where everybody else really knows that he's not performing well, but she's letting him kind of slide by. So.
Well, yeah, that was the boss before her, right? Bethany or something like that.
Yeah. Being the boss's friend, she's gonna have some issues trying to make sure that he does what he's supposed to, and still she, you know, stays on their good side too. So it's a tough one. It's hard to decide how to take care of
that. Yeah. Communication's important.
Yeah.
For honesty.
Great.
Another thing that's
earlier on.
Sorry, John.
Yeah, earlier on we were discussing about she was afraid, and just because she's aware of Terry having gone in his car, to herself, any obligation to the managers herself, does she own herself any obligations?
Any ethical obligations for herself? I would.
Does she have any obligation to herself?
I think as a as a manager, she is doing what, you know, she feels like she's obligated to do for herself, because in her own defense, I mean, I do think she's arrogant, but she's also wants to have a high performing group, and those are things that are important to her. So I guess that to me is she is doing what she feels like is best for herself.
Yeah, I liked her attitude that she has about making sure that everybody looks good. She doesn't take credit for other people's work. She, you know, if they succeed, she succeeds because she looks like a good manager. So I think that's a good attitude that she has there.
Agree.
She was fearful, huh? Because considering her age, about 27 years, that's also that side also contribute to that fearful moment. Looking at the age, if we can consider, because
27,
she also working with certain team members who are also older than us. She is it also contributing to the fear?
I mean, I think probably their fear, because they have, I think anybody that's getting older in the workforce kind of fears the new young gun that knows things you don't know, you know, so especially with her coming right out, I don't know that I think the better manager she is, the less those concerns are, you know. I mean, the only way to confront those or to defeat those kind of things is just to do a good job. And if she does a good job, I think it'll be fine.
Interesting. So is he a good manager at the moment?
I say yes. I think she's doing a good job. You know, she's obviously being successful and trying to motivate her other, you know, team members. And she did rally behind Phil when he was sick. Got the whole company to contribute.
And I think she's improved productivity, and she's doing what they pay her to do. You know, is to manage a group and have it be a contributing member of the company. And obviously, she's doing that really well. And you know, I think I wouldn't dislike being on her team. You know, I think, you know, she seems like she'd give you, and she would give you what you were due, you know. So I like that.
Well, so how well is the company in the case dealing with its HR practices generally?
Well, Terry should never have been passed through. He failed all of his interviews. That to me is a failure in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree.
And then putting him just on a team and trying to hide him somewhere, that just doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, I think that shows you that the company wasn't as committed to their policies as they'd like you to think they are. That they, you know, that they were willing to hire their buddy, you know, as opposed to the best employee.
Didn't it say that he like failed 5 interviews?
It does, yeah. Like 5 people, and not one said yes to hire him.
Yeah.
So how do they hire? How do they hire people?
They go through a series of interviews for one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says they hired people who, or tried to hire people who were like themselves, and they hired the younger, and who were really dedicated, even obsessive compulsive about work.
That's what she wants.
That's how she hired, right?
That was very specific.
It sounded like their hiring procedure was pretty intense. She said that if Terry had gone through the normal procedures, he wouldn't have been hired. So made it sound like they were much more intense than what well, he shouldn't have gotten through. So
right.
Great. So let's now talk about the feedback. How was the feedback management over there? Were they the managers and the top executives, were they managing the feedbacks very well?
I don't remember reading anything specifically about how the company gave feedback, but her feedback was always blunt. She said that she was blunt in her feedback, letting people know what they did right and letting them know what they did wrong, which I appreciate. I thought that was really cool.
I think the company's way of doing feedback is in those 6-month interviews where they get rated. The problem is that those are too ambiguous. They just, you know, this score means you're on the track to getting fired, and this score means you're going to get promoted, which is why Phil expected a promotion. Oh,
the bell curve. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. That's is that normal? Is that a normal business practice?
My husband's company.
What was that?
He worked for Bettis as a manager for like 15 years. And yeah, he was not allowed to give out too many 4s.
Oh.
Even though he had several people that he thought deserved 4s and, you know, had done really good work. He was only allowed to give 1 4, 2 3s, and then everybody else had to be a 2 or below.
Really?
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then the other thing they did is they had this company meeting right before it saying, oh no, there's no quota. And then when they talked to the managers directly, they said, oh yeah, there's a quota.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a little shady. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So looking at the whole thing, let's see performance. Now, performance. How were they actually? Were they given a clear picture of how they were performing?
I would say no,
Were
they were
they
not.
good?
Not from the company, but from that specific manager, I believe they were.
Yes.
Yeah, seems like the protocol of the PIP or the PEP is crazy. You know, it just doesn't. That seems to be the only real feedback that they get, and that's
And then it's too
just
late.
to set them up to fail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the performance being set clearly to the members of the team? Like the managers, were they telling the team members how they were performing? And if anything at all, was it the right way of saying those things?
I think her particular way of doing it was good. I don't know about the other managers. I don't remember reading anything specific about the managers.
Well, the other managers were like they were passing Terry and Phil through with no issues, and that's not it wasn't consistent with what they felt. So they were obviously not being truthful in those.
Was he on other teams? I don't remember that.
Well, it was before she became the manager. The manager before kept
Right.
passing.
Rachel.
Right. Got it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with what's been said before. I think the grading scale from 0 to 5 is too ambiguous. It doesn't give them really details that they can improve on. They're probably not regular enough. Maybe they could be done quarterly. If I had anything to add, it talks about how I think it was Phil's really. It was either I forget, but I think it was Phil who was really popular, but the boss didn't like him.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I hope things aren't being run that way just by who's popular and who's not.
Great. So performance improvement plan. What is it for? What is it for?
the PIP.
PIP. What is it for?
And in this company, it's for pretty much putting somebody on the fast track to being fired. It's essentially a way for them to build the case against them. But that's not what I think built for originally.
Yeah, or getting a promotion. Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
And do you agree how do you agree with the company how it actually uses that PIP? Do you agree with them?
I don't. I think what Shelley had said earlier about being able to use it to actually help the employee to improve, to maybe get them to the point where they could stay and contribute to the company would be a better use of it than to just build a case against them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a wasted resource. It's a wasted opportunity. When you could actually maybe turn things around.
Because I agree, it's really a big training opportunity, like we've been talking about, to help somebody and understand what they can do and what they can do better, and also kind of remind people of the company culture. And I don't know, as far as I can see in this case, the company seems kind of lifeless.
All right. So do you think this manager can make good decisions about these two individuals in the team? do you think she can make a good decision about these two members in the team?
I think she can make a good decision. I think that she's trying to make a good decision. I think that's important, that she's trying to be fair and trying to do what's right. I think I would agree with the decision she made.
I think the Phil one was a little harder with him. I think she could have worked with him a little bit more if he hadn't gotten sick. But by the time he got sick, then it just made it complicated.
Right.
You know, but I do too. I think that she was doing the best she could with what she had to work with.
Were we able to read the last paragraph? That is two top course B. Were we able to read that to know the final decision that the company actually took, or to end the story?
I didn't see that. Is that on the manager or on the leader page?
What is it? What are we looking at?
Yeah, we are looking at the final stages of the two members of the team.
Are you looking at B then?
Yeah, B.
Okay.
We are talking about two tough course B.
Okay.
B.
The one is talking about Telly, and the other one.
What are we looking for?
It's after the, like, where there's the two, you know, what the students should do, what the leader should read. The
It
next
looks like that.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
We have to have a few minutes inside.
There's another.
So what are the alternatives to firing Terry?
I think the boss could fire you because they're evidently buddies. I think that's a thing that could happen. That would be a consequence. So I think, you know, what the manager before was just passing him through, just dealing with it. You know, I mean, the other option is to try to find him a place on another team where he can be successful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And none of the company or none of the team in the company picked him.
Yeah, they don't.
What does it mean? Is there anything that he was lacking that all the other team members could not pick him? And besides reading to the bottom of the story, we find out that he actually went to another company, and later on he became a manager. So why is it that he was not performing at the first company?
I think the skill set that he was expected to have at the first company, he just didn't have. I mean, he was a scuba diving instructor, and evidently he was successful at that. Mm-hmm. But he just not the technicals. He didn't have the technical skills that this company required.
And that is why he was not performing.
Oh, poor Phil.
What message?
The end of the thing. You guys finished the reading?
Yeah.
With Phil? That's very sad.
Very sad. Anything that you can share from the reading?
Oh, well, I think, you know, he ended up, she gave him a 3. Although this is interesting, and I wish they would have shared this in the original article, is that when he was gone, we had hired a replacement for him.
Yeah.
And so there's already somebody there that's doing a better job of his job. That's, you know, so I just think it's very sad that he, after a year after he leaves the company, he gets brain cancer and passes away. That's very sad.
I thought the way that she handled the situation with Terry was really good.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up leaving happily, so.
Great.
Well, and even Phil left on his own.
Yeah.
So what message will firing or not firing Terry send to other employees? What message?
Well, I think it shows that she has some compassion because nobody's a perfect employee. And we all have situations that are sometimes beyond our control. And you want to believe that your employer is going to understand when those things come up. And that she didn't just outright fire him. She handled it in a diplomatic way, a way that he, you know, he had an opportunity to try to be successful.
Okay. So, are there any creative options that might work? Any creative options that might work?
Well, I'm a big fan of SMART goals. I think before, I don't do the employee reviews here, but my bosses ask for my input on everybody. And so I always try to come up with what they've done well, what I'd like to see, and steps that they can, you know, do to improve. And I think that makes it a lot easier as you go to compare the next year too, or the next time you're doing reviews. You can say, okay, these are the goals that we agreed to, and how did you meet them? And if you can do measurable goals like that, it makes it all a lot simpler. You know whether or not somebody's contributing, and they know it too, so they're not blindsided.
I agree.
Fine. So looking at it now, we are also talking about dismissing employees. So how did the manager do well? How did the manager do well?
How did she do well? I think the whole talking to him and talking about the situation in an honest way was definitely something she did well. Because she didn't have to. I feel like she had reason to fire him. She didn't have to try to explain the whole thing and try to figure it out with him. She gave him time to figure it out, and I thought it was good. I liked the way that she did it.
Yeah.
Now let's see also, what did she do that was effective?
I think she was honest. You know, I think, you know, sometimes it's really hard to tell people bad things, you know, because everybody wants to be liked, but when you can treat people if you're going to treat them with respect, treat them, you know, honestly. And if you really want them to be successful, you got to help them overcome areas where their shortcomings are.
And I think instead of pointing out his shortcomings with Terry, she was good about having him understand the difference between his performance and what the team was performing. She was talking about, you know, these other people that were on the team and how do you feel like you compare to them. And I think that was good that he was able to find that out for himself instead of having somebody tell him that he was doing a horrible job.
Great. So he also did many things which were not effective. Can we just point out some of these few things?
I think her keeping Phil on even after he was sick, and I know it was a moral obligation, but I think that was less effective. They'd already replaced him, and she pretty much just had to manage him. He didn't really have a spot on the team. He didn't really, he felt like he should be promoted because he'd been there a long time, and she pretty much just had this body, an employee that she didn't know what to do with.
Yeah, he got a 3 because he wasn't hard to manage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, saying that he's doing, that's exactly what she said she wouldn't do, telling somebody that they're doing a decent job when they're not.
Yeah.
Any other less effective things that she did?
I think she really needs to deal with her relationship with her supervisor.
Oh,
I just really think she's gonna, well, she leaves the company not that much longer, and I wonder how much that has to play with that, Did she just couldn't deal with the boss, I just think that's not the right tack to take when you're an employee of somebody else. Why are you, my son has a shirt that he loves, but it's because he's 15, and it says yes, let's do it the stupidest way possible because it's easier for you. And I think that's her attitude, and what maybe is funny on a 15-year-old is less effective in the workplace.
Great shirt, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the question is interesting because I don't know. This is my thoughts. I wouldn't contribute much of what she did like negative, but I think it would communicate, what was effective or found out, so they could, make some standards or some procedures that were effective, standard flow better. So when she does leave or promoted or whatever, that he, hits the ground running or has that information for us, because maybe they do have to go through things like this and choices like this, really.
Yeah, I think she could, some of the stuff, the other thing I think she could have done better is she could have done maybe some just pre-reviews with Phil. The whole emailing the CEO thing, that she knew about that and didn't put a stop to it. That I think that's a problem. That's maybe less effective.
Yeah.
Okay. So individual, we're going to share it one by one. So what can we learn from this case about making decisions about termination?
It's always easier when they quit.
They go on their own.
I mean, it's a tough thing to do.
Okay. So starting from the timer, what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, like with Terry,
I don't think
it's
it's gonna
like,
work.
no, it doesn't, but it's easier. But like with Terry, just giving, I thought that showed him some respect, just to give him that time to find another job, and either within the company or without of the company, and he had to know then that when nobody in the company else wanted him, that was, he was on his way out. But I thought that showed him some respect, and some humanity. And I think probably that went a ways to help alleviate some of her other concerns of him, you know, going a little crazy or something, or having a vendetta.
Well, and I think you also don't have to do as many terminations if you hire correctly. So Terry shouldn't have been hired. He wouldn't have to be terminated.
Yep.
I agree.
And for that matter, Phil didn't ever really go through
Phil-
the hiring thing either. He, you know,
No, he was just,
I feel like I give him a pass because he died.
I know,
So, like,
I know. It's hard to be nice to him.
I'm more worried about Terry than I am about Phil.
Yeah.
but at the time, we
When-
didn't know he was dying, you know?
Right, right.
Team better. No, okay.
I know what you're
Monty
talking about.
Python.
I got that
If anybody
reference.
knows.
Benjamin, do you have anything to add?
No, it's all been said. She didn't have to struggle with these things so much that the company would have had policies, standards that she would know how to handle the situations faster or easier. I hope that managers don't have to go through stuff like this all the time. That they and kind of work to create those standards if the company doesn't have them. So,
Great. So we have to think about what we have learned, and that if we could be able to, you know, apply them in our future situations. Can we think about things like that?
I think it's a real wake up call that I'm like, you know what, I don't know that I used to know the laws in Washington State pretty well, but I haven't really taken the time to look at the laws in Pennsylvania, and I probably need to do that so that I'm a little more aware of what's required, so that, you know, thus far we haven't had any vindictive employees that want to sue us, but you never know. I mean, you never know. That was a little, I think that will, something I'm going to work on.
Benjamin, can you share with us, maybe you be becoming a manager, can you be able to apply all these things?
I would hope so. I would definitely, to understand people well, their needs, the company culture, and those if we don't have them. I think since that we can pull like communicating when somebody's, you know, on, and there was.
I think the thing that I learned was that her being direct with Terry, saying, I'm going to give you a 2.5. This is where you stand. This is what our team looks like. And how do you feel like you fit in the team? Being direct and letting him have the opportunity to come to some conclusions on his own is something I would definitely try to apply in a situation I might be in.
Yeah.
Will you go ahead and do something much, maybe better than what she did as a manager?
Better than what she did?
Are you thinking of anything better or greater than what she did as a manager?
Yeah, I think like what we've discussed is working harder on her own issues, on her own relationship with her bosses, and but as far as the termination of the 2 employees, I feel like she did a good job.
Great, great. Angela.
Yeah. I personally, I mean, I guess I don't really know what their skills were, but maybe she could have found them a spot in a different part of the company in order to have, instead of having to push them out. But that's the only thing I can think of that maybe could have been an alternative to what she did, because otherwise I think she did what she had to do.
I don't know, the only recommendation I would have, and she definitely did the right things, but with Terry, where everybody knew he was underperforming, and he did leave, but he kind of left on his own accord. Like, maybe I don't know what the correct choice would have been. I don't know if a group meeting or whatever been the right course, but I don't know, having some way to communicate, that we're back on track and in this mission, and we're all, working towards it, and effectively that, I'm on your side, not,
Yeah. I'm not sure she should have tried putting him on more technical stuff. I was just rereading that. She was trying to teach him to be yeah, and he just wasn't good at it. That wasn't his strength. But I do think, I mean, he seemed to have an ability to get, some people to like him. So maybe in a more sales related capacity or something, he could have been successful, but he just didn't, nobody worked with him to help him achieve that.
Yeah, or marketing or something.
Mm-hmm. But he is an engineer. That I missed that too. He was an engineer for GE. So maybe he should have been technical. He just wasn't good at it.
Okay, so personally, I like her boldness. You see, we found out that Raquel was also a woman in the team who was supposed to have even occupied that position as a manager. And she's older than the current manager that we have. But I like the way she did not feel intimidating. She felt that in as much as she is the manager, she has to stand on the feet. And that is one most important thing for me. I think we need to think about it and apply. Even though the company, the team was divided around both of them, but she did not even thought of what other team members would say behind her. But she was doing perfectly well. In fact, I like the way her manner she was doing, even though she was a little girl. But I'm thinking, how did she actually got all these intelligences? How she was, planning? It means that she actually on top of the business, and she actually helped many of the team members to come, because she will not hire any person just for hiring sake. She will make sure she hire the competent ones. So as a manager, I think even though she's just a small girl, she's not older, but the way she was doing things, I believe if she can stay in the team for a longer period, she's going to change so many things. I truly love the way she actually contributes to the team. It's very, very impressive. It's very, very impressive. Anyway, we've come to the end of our discussion. And I don't know if anyone has a final say, then we can prepare to close for today.
I'm good. Did a great
Yeah,
job, John.
I'm good. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
We have nothing to talk about for doohickeys, right? We're done?
We have
We
one
have-
more.
Tammy,
One more. Yeah, but we only have the 2 weeks, so it's going to be a shorter one.
When does
We
it
don't have any
start?
assignment for this week.
It's
Should I start a
Like-
new Google Doc?
Next week?
Yeah, we
Yeah, we
just
probably do need to start a new Google Doc.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will start a new Google Doc, and I'll send this link with that link in an email sometime today.
okay. Thank you.
okay. So I can send it to the
Yep.
to a discussion board.
Yep.
Tammy,
Okay.
send me the link so I can send it to the discussion
Yes, I'll
board.
send you the link in an email. We need to have a leader for next week. I think we've all done it twice now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what happens? We all do it twice. I kind of vaguely remember him talking about that. Like,
None of us have to turn in an assignment, but we
Yeah,
we
it's
still
just
have
leading the discussion.
Yeah.
all right. Well, I don't mind
I'm
just
happy-
leading a discussion.
Okay.
We'll let you do it then, Shelley.
Okay,
Shelly, you want to do it?
sure.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, I have
Thank
a
you,
question that's
everyone.
off topic.
All right.
If
Yeah.
you guys don't mind. Did any of you guys go through pathways? I can't remember.
Me, I
Did.
did.
Yes.
Did
I
Angela? Do you
did.
remember? And you did too. Okay. So there, my understanding was pathways met our residency requirement at BYU, Idaho. Like we don't
Didn't,
go and
it didn't-
study for 6 months, do a semester.
no, I wasn't fully. It didn't meet my residency. I had to do a regular semester to meet my residency.
That's was the clear expectation that they gave us, and I don't know.
You mean
didn't-
being on campus?
Yeah,
No, you don't
That's
have
what-
to ever go on campus.
No, you can do
that's what
online.
they're telling me now. I was looking at it, and I'm like, why isn't my residency expectation met?
No, you don't have to be on campus at all. If you go through pathway, that meets your residency requirement, but you do have to do upper level. What is it called? Upper level residency requirements. Oh God, I don't remember.
I
Look.
had pretty much all of my associate stuff completed when I went into Pathways. I was a senior when I didn't finish the first time. And I had to finish a whole semester in order for them to give me my associates. Outside of
Okay.
Pathways. Yeah. So
Yeah,
Right. Because you have to have so many credits through BYU Idaho before you
Yeah.
can get a degree from them.
yeah.
right.
But you don't have to ever go on campus if you've done pathway.
No,
That would
you can.
out.
Yeah, that's what my understanding was too, Tammy, but that's not what I'm being told right now. So I was just curious. Yeah.
Where are you reading that? Where are you seeing it?
I emailed registration, and she's telling me that pathway courses only fulfill the requirement of residency credits if the course is an upper level course, such as 300 or 400 level classes.
No, there's
like-
another. I ran into the same
Pathways
problem. There's
doesn't
another.
do upper
It's
level
not
class.
podcasting, so it's not live. So I stay